Peptide interest is growing quickly, but growth alone does not create credibility. Today, we focus on what separates responsible peptide programs from hype and hype driven ones, and what providers should look for in moving forward. Jesse, what separates a credible, sustainable peptide program from one you see as a short cycled, hype driven one?
That probably come down to where you're getting the peptides from. If you're getting it from a sustainable pharmacy that has been around for a while, be part of the long term growth.
In this part, we are going to focus on what has to be in place for peptide medicine to be done responsibly.
Yeah, Jesse, in part one and part two, we really talked about the difference between a licensed pharmacy and just a research lab, right? And why sourcing is the one area that people can get themselves into trouble pretty quickly. But for a provider, the question becomes more practical. What should they be looking for? Because almost everyone in the space is going to say that they have, quality products, right? That's going to be what everybody tells you. But the real question is whether or not their structure behind their program can prove it. So my question to you, Jesse, is when someone says they have access to high quality peptides, what should they actually mean by saying that? Walk us through the minimum steps that the serious buyer should expect to be proven and not just a claim.
The very first one is really checking if the peptides are coming from a pharmacy or some general lab. That is like the number one step of it all. So once you know that, then you can start narrowing down. And if it is coming from a pharmacy, you can do your due diligence. You can research to see how credible this pharmacy is, how long has this pharmacy been around, and then when you're out and about, how many people are actually using this pharmacy? Because it might be a nice little sprout up, a compounding pharmacy that just maybe jumped in the game this year because they're like, oh man, let's get into the whole peptide game. This is freaking awesome. They're pretty much relatively new to the game too, and they have to understand the chemical mixing, or not the chemical, but the mixing of the peptides. I like to go with pharmacies that have been around for a very long time, who service multiple different type clinics that understand this, and not just the pop-up pharmacies. Now the labs, that is, they are not under, like we talked before, not under the same rules and regulations. They can source from anybody. They can say whatever the hell they want. And so the pharmacies cannot really do that. I'm not inside. I'm not a doctor of pharmacy. I don't know exactly, what they're doing in there. So the ones that we use, I know they're a bunch of white coats, and they are walking around in there. I mean, this is what they do. This is all they do. So it's it's very hard, unless you're in that room, then you'll truly know 100% exactly what's going down. But you can at least do your best to find the most reputable pharmacy that has been around for a while, and who other doctors are using or hospitals are using.
Okay, good. Now, Dr. Bob, I want to bring you in here from the standpoint of clinical research. You spent almost 20 years with one of the biggest and best reputation health systems in the nation, and spent a lot of time on that research side. So from that mindset, what's dangerous about somebody making quality claims when it's just a marketing decision and not really the issue?
Yeah, I think it's really, thanks for that question, Breck. I think it's really important to go beyond the marketing, because everybody's got the marketing, everybody's got their stories, everybody's got their, rosy path to success. And so what Jesse's talking about is checking out, what's behind the marketing, because if you don't do that, you don't know if it's going to work or not. And everybody's got their anecdotes, their little stories here and there that are wonderful. It works great, and they have testimonials. But, you just got to go beyond that. You got to go underneath. You got to really dig around. Otherwise, you could be wasting money, time, and even your health. So I don't know, Jesse, what do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much you hit it on point. You
got to go underneath. You got to dig in, right?
Yeah, you really do. You have to dive in. I mean, you can go down so many rabbit holes with this. And even when you do dig in, do you truly know? I mean, it comes down to, when I was talking to somebody, how do you know it works? Well, you'll know if it works. You know it's quality because with a lot of the peptides, if you have symptoms of you feel flushed, that's completely fine. If you feel nothing at all times, it's most likely not working. So if you want to know quality, let me know how you feel.
Well, there you go.
Providers will often say, can you show me a certificate of analysis to help with a quality standpoint? So what does a certificate of analysis tell you? What does it not tell you about the quality? And what else should a serious provider wants to know simply beyond seeing the document part?
I mean, the one thing that it always shows is the purity. So that's like the main one that it always shows on there. A good one is the endotoxins. It should show the endotoxins and the.
Okay. Hey, Jesse, remember, I'm just a simple South Central Nebraska boy. What's this endotoxin stuff you're talking about?
Bacteria and different type of bacteria that may be in it. There's actually what's it called? The rubber capsule from the top. I'm blanking on it. It will actually show within certain tests, if you actually test for it, what that silicone.
Okay.
So there's a silicone on there. Here's the thing. Everybody wants the best of the testing. And this is the part where it's really, really hard. Everybody wants to see a full layer of all the tests. I don't think people quite understand how much that costs. That is a lot of money. Like companies spend thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a year just on the purity test or an endotoxin test. You can literally test for everything, but the main things are the endotoxins, the water purity, testing, testing the actual peptide, especially when the peptides are stacked together, say like a Wolverine or a Glow or Clo, actually testing the strength of each peptide after you mix it. I think that one's a huge one because everybody and their mother out there is trying to stack 5, 10 to 10 peptides. And they're like, oh, did it work though? Like, did anybody test on if one just cut out the other? I'm like, no. Like, you got to think of that, guys. Like, that's the biggest test of them all. So a lot of the places, they're now putting QR codes on the back of the vial. And so you can scan the QR code and then it'll pull up the COA right there and then. The biggest part is making sure that it was the latest COA for that batch.
Okay.
So if you're getting a COA from 6 months ago, I'm most likely there's a newer batch that's been put out. Batches, could be a month, 2 months, 3 months old. The guy could have, had a compounding and he's just compounding that same batch over and over because when they get these APIs, the ingredients, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars they could be. And they produce a lot of peptides for quite a while. So that may be the same batch, but not 6 months ago.
Okay, and then so we've got the sort of what documentation to look at, what to check for the quality, and a couple of different dimensions. Now, but then in part 2, you talked about there was a doctor who didn't realize that his supplier was actually an unlicensed lab, pricing peptides out of China, as you went through with him. So that story makes the licensing distinction clear. In this part 3, I want to go a level past licensing and say once your provider knows they're working with the real pharmacy, what should they be watching for after that first check to really that supplier consistency, the testing frequency, and documentation over time? Is that just continually looking at that COA, or is there something else they should be doing as well?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the only thing they can do is looking at the COA, and the other is seeing how their patient feels every injection. I mean, I don't think, unless they want to go and take that peptide and send it in for third-party testing, they can do that. They can go and pay the money to do that and get it fully tested. That is one way. Doctors sometimes do that, and then they stop because then they realize how expensive it was.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's killing my profit right there. Like now you guys understand what the pharmacies and all of us go through. It's a lot of money. And some have asked, they're like, do you guys test every single peptide? Like, no, that's not a thing. You might test 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 100. It's the same batch. I mean, you can absolutely research maybe the most well-known, start from there, have a conversation with them, get them on the phone, do a Zoom, see their pricing. If their pricing is too low, then it's too good to be true. If their pricing is too high, they're price gouging you. So that's a good way to start on the pricing side of it, on when you want to start. That when it comes to this, the highest price doesn't mean you're getting gold or diamonds, and the lowest price doesn't mean that they like you, right? It's you want to go in the medium range.
So I guess we go back to the quality. It's not just where something comes from, where that is being sourced, but it also comes down to the entire chain behind it, the pharmacy documentation, the provider education, intake, the monitoring of it, like you said, getting the feedback. Is it working? And the wellness I think the willingness to just slow down and take each situation as it comes, and not just try to to I guess go with the whatever the latest trend is, right? And if you are if you're already somewhere in this chain and already taking a peptide, let's check the safety first and make sure that if there are any course corrections that need to be made, it's all about asking the right questions. Now, let's look ahead. If peptides continue moving into the medicine, the wellness, recovery, and healthy aging, long-term winners will probably be the people who move, they're not just moving fast into whatever the trends are, right? But they're the ones that they're not just making big claims. This is what you're going to do. It's that slower process that we're talking about, right? And so they've got to build the trust, protect their patients, obviously, documentation, what's the quality of where they're sourcing the materials, educating their teams. That's one thing too, right? Because there's so much information out there on all the social media channels and everything. You want to make sure your team is speaking the language of your practice. Yeah. And understanding your boundaries. What is your role in all of this? Mm-hmm. So, in segment one, we talked about what makes a peptide, source, it credible, and now kind of zoom out to the business itself for us, Jesse. You can have the best sourcing, you can have full documentation, the pedigree of where the peptides are coming from, but what really is going to make a business last, do you think, in this space?
Your reputation of doing what is best for your client. That's you're going to be able to smell that one right away. If you're just one of those, like chiropractors, the cattle call, as you come in, we're going to crack your neck and you're going to get out. You can't do that with the peptide game, and that's with any game. Like the customer service, the way that you spend time with your clients, your patients. This is what's going to last, and this is what these clinics need to do and need to understand, that you really truly need to be there for your customers with this one. You have to truly dive in deep with them, be nitty gritty, spend time, spend 45 minutes, whatever it may be, on the first one, and get to know what they truly need. So that's the ones that are going to be doing that are going to get the referrals, and the referrals are the ones that are going to keep on bringing the money, and then you're going to have a lasting business. So you want a lasting business, get the referrals, word of mouth, right? Because if you're just going to go out there and just pay ads all day long because nobody's referring you, something's wrong. All right, get the referrals.
All right, well, any other final closing comments before we go into the wrap up here?
Well, on my side, hey, you know what? Educate yourself. All your providers out there, get peptide certified. We have courses for it.
What about for a functional medicine doctor or the provider? If they're going to make their next decision on peptides.
Partner up with the right people. Partner up with the right pharmacy. Get in, do it smart. That's all I can say. After doing this for quite a while, everybody's going to come knocking at your door wanting to partner with you and saying that they can make you millions of dollars. Just play it smart. Partner with the right people.
Well, we want to thank you, Jesse, for sharing all of your knowledge with us. We focused on what separates credibility from hype. Quality isn't just a slogan. Oversight isn't just a formality, and personalization isn't just a menu item. So, the future of peptide medication, will depend on, whether providers, businesses choose education, the right structure, their monitoring, and responsible about participation over shortcuts. Don't take a shortcut. For providers, build a process before you build a demand.